Why blow a team out when you can make it interesting down the stretch? Cody and I talk about the 21-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals and how Derek Stingley and Will Anderson came to play.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, Texans fans, to this Victory Mondays episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on this Monday, we're kicking it off discussing the 21-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. If this is your first time listening or watching the Locked On Texans podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And thank you to all of our returning listeners lending your ear for another episode as we talk Texans. I am your host, John, some sports guy Hickman. And of course, as always, Sports Illustrated's own, Credential Media members own, in the locker room getting your scoops.
Throwing up the dubs.
Cody Davis. Today's episode is brought to you by none other than LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're going to have our final thoughts on Sunday's game. Why was it so up and down? Why did it feel like it was a nail biter? Because it was a good and bad day for CJ Stroud, but we're opening up talking about the defense, highlighting the defense. And before we give it over to you, Cody, before we highlight Will Anderson coming into this game, I thought that this would be a good game for Will Anderson to have a breakout moment, and he did. Derek Stingley coming back. I want to make this first segment, I want to classify it as the quote-unquote bus back.
Okay.
We heard the Derek Stingley, he's a bus at number 3 talk. I saw a lot, even in the comments on YouTube, Will Anderson is a bust. Where is the impact? Against the Arizona Cardinals? Oh, it was impact from both players. They shut all of that up. Cody, looking at the 21-16 victory, what was your takeaways on the defensive side of the ball?
I think Coach D'Amico Ryans put it perfectly.
After a game like this, we're feeling excitement, right? Anytime you win in this league, it's a big win. And this game, it was a lot of miscues, things didn't go our way. But what I love most and what I told our guys is, man, we found a way to win. And that's what it takes to be a good football team. You have to find a way to win, have to play complementary football. Offense struggled there. Defense stepped up and had their back. And we've had other games where, the defense has struggled and the offense has stepped up and made drives there at the end of game to win the game. So I think the defense owed the offense a drive for that. So it was awesome to see the defense be on that side and being the reason, why we won that game.
First and foremost, let me start off by saying this. I don't think there was nobody who made the biggest impact on the defensive side of the ball than Blake Cashman. And John, I truly want us to not only talk about Blake. By
the way, he didn't play Mike at all this year. Played Mike with the absolute
exactly. We all know he was playing that due to the suspension of Denzel Perriman. And John, I want to save Blake Cashman's for tomorrow's show because I feel like his performance against Arizona indicated how well that young man has played throughout the whole entire season. And I feel like it would be best if we just give him his flowers for an entire segment. So we're going to save Blake Cashman for tomorrow. But for those of you who don't know, 19 tackles on the day. John, as you just alluded to, that was his very first time playing the mic. And Blake Cashman, man, I just wish there was a way. I'm hoping there's a way he could end the 2023 season off with some type of award beyond the AFC Defensive Player of the Week award that he won a couple of weeks ago. But shout out to Blake Cashman. However, yesterday's game was definitely a breakout day for Will Anderson Jr. and my guy, Derek Stingley Jr. And look, I am thrilled to talk about the impact that Stingley had, because as you guys know, I have been on board of the Derek Stingley Jr. train before the 2022 draft. When we was on here debating Sauce, Stingley thoughts, I was always on board of Derek Stingley because, look, I understand. When you drafted Derek Stingley, it came with the biggest risk. It came with the biggest concern. And we all know what that concern is. We've been living it over the last 2 years. Injuries. And to see him go out there, and we finally saw signs of a Derek Stingley Jr. that took place during the 2019 season at LSU. Stingley was by far this team's number one cornerback, at least in the game against the Arizona Cardinals, man. 6 tackles on the day, 2 big pass deflections, and of course, everybody's favorite play of the day when he came away with that interception. John, I agree with what Coach D'Amico Ryan said about that interception. It was a game changer. And I agree only because, look, I understand it. It came early in the second quarter, but I do believe had Derek Stingley Jr. not get that interception, I think that would have definitely put Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals offense more into a rhythm with more momentum. Because think about it. They came out on that very first drive and they looked like they was about to give it to the Texans. However, that interception literally changed the momentum for not just the Arizona Cardinals, not just for the Texans defense, but for Derek Stingley Jr. as a whole.
Hey, Coach, you talked about the defense, but what can you say about the production that you was able to see out of Derek Stingley Jr. today?
It was Stingley came up big time for us on the interception. It was it's cool to see him make a big play for us after all he's went through to work his way back, right, to get on the field. He goes through a lot that a lot of people don't see, but the rehab process and for him, right, really grinding while no one's watching to show that he was ready to step up and compete when his opportunity was there. He stepped up and made the play. So happy for Stingley to be making a game-changing play for us, being a factor in the game.
I love the fact how Coach D'Amico Ryans went into talking about how tough it's been on Derek Stingley over these last couple of weeks when he went down with that hamstring injury. You know, talking about how much he had to grind to get back to where it was. And after the podium with Coach D'Amico Ryans, we had an opportunity to talk to Stingley in the locker room. And I asked him towards the side because he said, look, going down with that hamstring injury, it was devastating because him, like everybody, was looking at the 2023 season as a breakout year. We talked about that a lot here on this show. We talked about how good he looked doing OTAs, how good he looked doing training camp, how good he looked doing preseason, how good he looked during the first 2 games of the regular season. And for him to go down with that hamstring injury, you know, it was heartbreaking, and you can tell that it was weighing a lot on Stingley. And for him to go out there and have that type of performance that he did against the Arizona Cardinals, John, I believe that is definitely going to set the tone for him for the rest of the season. By the way, Landry Locker of Sports Radio 610 asked him, do you think this was your best performance of your career? If you ask me, this was the first of many career days for Derek Stingley Jr.
I think Will Anderson up front needs a lot of love too, man. Heading into this game, I saw it across social media. I saw it in some of the YouTube comments of how the not as impactful as a lot of fans may have wanted Will Anderson to be, considering the trade haul that Houston gave up to Arizona to go and draft Will Anderson, who they used to draft Paris Johnson, and how there's been the advanced stats versus what he's actually doing. Coming into this game, I looked at that offensive line, and I had a feeling that this was going to be a game where Will Anderson was going to have an impact. 7 pressures and a sack on 24 matchups, a 29.9 pressure rate against fellow rookie right tackle Paris Johnson. But I think you look at the sack, huge play for Houston and Will Anderson. The very last play, defensive play of the game, we saw Steven Nelson do a very good job of batting the pass deflection away on the pass from Kyler Murray. The pressure that Will Anderson put in on Kyler Murray, which altered his pass, I think also goes along to and speaks towards how good of a game than Will Anderson. He also had that tackle for loss. He missed a sack, which, honestly, guys, Tavierre Thomas, I think, needs to host a clinic on Tuesday on how to secure tackles, because he is by far the best tackle on the team for the Houston Texans. But he did miss a sack, got one. He was very impactful for the Houston Texans. I had opportunity to ask Coach DeMeco Ryans about Will Anderson's impact, and this is what he had to say.
Coach, Will Anderson started the game off early with a sack, got pressure on Kyler Murray to end off the game and help Steven Nelson on that pass deflection. Can you talk about the impact the rookie has had? We've heard a lot about CJ coming to the league, but Will Anderson as a rookie, how impactful has he been for this Texans defense?
Will has been very impactful for our defense. He's an impact player. Will plays the game with a relentless mindset, right? Love the way he gets after it each and every snap. Man, you talk about effort, you talk about him disrupting the quarterback. He did a really nice job today, along with our entire D-line, right? You talk about a tough out with Kyler Murray. He's not an easy guy to get down. So, as I told the guys before we play, you're going to have to rush twice, right? Keep rushing. And Will, he continues to, help our defense and be the reason why, we can finish out games like this.
And not only did Will Anderson, did he have an impact on this game? Cody, you highlighted Derek Stingley, but I think the secondary altogether, I think, did a very good job going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Steven Nelson, 1 catch for 13 yards. Derek Stingley, 2 catches for 33 yards and with the interception and a couple of pass deflections. Tavierre Thomas, 3 catches for 26 yards. So the cornerbacks, I think, played very well for Houston against the Arizona Cardinals. Defensively, I do have some takeaways. Jimmy Ward is 100% needed right now on the back end of this defense, because Jimmy Ward allows Houston to do one thing. That's have Jalen Petrie in the box where he's special at. Jalen Petrie had some plays today, diving at Kyler Murray on one of those plays that ended up being a touchdown. The big pass that I think led to the touchdown to Hollywood Brown, I believe, for 48 yards. He had some plays this week and going back to last week where his head scratches, and he's not playing as focused and as fast and as determined and disciplined, I would say, that as we've seen from Jalen Petrie maybe in the past early in the season, but mainly his rookie year. So I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of time that he's played with Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward needs to be back for Houston. Houston Carson had a good game today, by the way, the backup safety. But I think Jalen Petrie right now is struggling because he's playing a little bit more back deep than you want him to see, maybe than you want to see, and that's affecting, I think, Houston's deep ball defense right now. He made a couple of plays, but he also gave up a couple of plays, and some of those plays you want back for Houston. And then defensively, we're going to talk about Blake Cashman throughout the week, but boy, did he have a good game. Also, Christian Harris. Between those two players, Christian Harris, I think he had one of his better days in his young career. A couple of tackles for loss, flying from sideline to sideline, 5 total tackles, a big pass deflection on 3rd and 8, I believe, which helped Houston keep it to that 4th down. And then you saw Houston defense make a stop. Christian Harris played well. So with the absence of Denzel Perryman, no Henry To'oTo'o, a very thin linebacker group, you are looking at a defense that held a very unstable-ish organization and franchise. The Arizona Cardinals just getting their franchise quarterback back. They had Josh Dobbs, and they switched to this quarterback. They've had a kind of ringlet of circus of quarterbacks. They had their own issues going on. Houston did a very good job defensively of kind of taking away some of the things that Arizona does well, which aren't many. And Christian Harris played phenomenal. Blake Cashman played phenomenal in the absence of and in spite of not having their other top performers at their linebacker position. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates you talk to and that are available out there. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job online at LinkedIn, and then add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. This is why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Victory Monday installment of Locked On Texans as we continue to break down the Houston Texans 21-16 victory over the Arizona Cardinals. John, I think you put it perfectly to open up the show. It was a very up and down day for the Houston Texans. You know, first half, it seemed like that they was going to blow them out. Second half got a little bit too close for comfort for that team. However, they were still able to pull off the victory. Like Coach D'Amico Ryan said, this was a game where the defense saved the offense. The majority of the issues that we saw out of this offense came during the second half, led by rookie quarterback CJ Stroud. Overall, when you take a look at the numbers, it was still a pretty solid day. 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, unfortunately, 3 interceptions. However, John, it was a tale of two halves for CJ, but I do believe that that hard hit that he took from safety Jalen Thompson, who came in with that late blitz and was able to get that hit when he had the wind knocked out of him. We had to sit through one play of Davis Mills, which was scary. I do believe that that hit kind of not only took him out the rhythm, but it's definitely part of the reason why we saw CJ Stroud struggle in the second half, and also part of the reason why we saw Bobby Slowik go back to being a little bit conservative in the second half. By the way, CJ Stroud, before that hit, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns. After the hit, 73 yards with 2 interceptions. John, I definitely do believe that that hit was a little bit more damaging than what a lot of people is thinking about as of right now.
Before I talk about CJ in the offense, I do want to really go back to the Houston Texans defense and how great of a day that they had. The Houston Texans did hold the Arizona Cardinals offense to 4 of 14 on 3rd or 4th down conversions and 1 of 4 on 4th downs. They did an amazing job of just getting that offense off the field, honestly, and giving the Houston Texans the opportunity to go out there and win the game offensively. And when the game got late, the defense continued to step up through and through. So, again, shout out to the Texans defense. Now, back to CJ Stroud and the offense. First half, the interception to Nico Collins, you would have liked to see him throw that a little bit higher. So only Nico, who's 6'4", can get it and nobody else, or it goes out of bounds. So that's something that he'll learn through. Robert Woods accounted for an interception when the ball went off of his hands. And then CJ just had a boneheaded interception. That sideline throw, I think that was to Tank Dell, who had a phenomenal day. Tank Dell ended the game off with
a $149, I believe.
A $149 on 8 catches, 18.6 yards per catch, 1 TD with a beautiful thrown 40-yard TD. Nico Collins, 7 catches for 65 yards. Robert Woods, 5 catches for 44 yards. Dalton Schultz, 2 catches, 32 yards, and slid into the end zone for a touchdown early in the game. And, of course, we saw John Metchie get on the action, 2 catches for 25 yards. Steven Sims got in on the action as well. I think that I don't want to necessarily kind of, I guess, hang up on CJ. This is the first time through how many weeks we can say he's looked like a rookie. Week 1, he looked like a rookie. Week 2, in that first half, he looked like a rookie. But from that point on, I haven't seen too many rookie mental error mistakes. And I'm not upset at that. I think when you look at Houston's offense, the talk of the week is probably going to be CJ and the 3 interceptions. But he did have 336 and 2 TDs. And, some of that blame is going to go towards Robert Woods. I get all of that. What I'm not going to do is downplay or overlook the great job the offensive line has done. Back-to-back weeks, we see Devin Singletary rushing for over 100 yards, 22 carries, 112 yards, 5.1 yards per carry, 1 TD. We look at the job the offensive line did protecting CJ Stroud. You see 3 sacks. 2 of those sacks are solely on CJ Stroud. The trip was on C.J. Stroud and holding the ball when the blitz was coming. I also think that was on C.J. Stroud. And the offensive line did a very good job throughout the game, picking up the D tackles, the opposing D tackles on some of those stunts, and picking up the linebackers on some of those blitzes. This is what D'Amico Ryans had to say when I asked him about the offensive line job and how impressive it was.
D'Amico, how impressed are you with the performance of your offensive line today?
Yeah, I think overall with our offense did a really nice job of moving the ball. Right? Anytime you get over 400 yards, you're moving the ball. And they did a really good job there. We did a really good job on third down that we were moving it. We just, got a little stagnant there in the red zone where some costly turnovers there, but we're moving. We're in position to score. Just had some miscues there and turn the ball over.
And I do want to highlight how good offensively and how fluid offensively the Houston Texans looked in their first half. Guys, we talked about for seasons now, since the departure of Deshaun Watson, the lack of downfield plays. In the first half alone, which is where we saw Houston really take advantage of the Arizona Cardinals defensively, and they were in a groove early in the game through the first half. 333 total yards at half, 84 rushing yards at half, and I was disappointed that Bobby Sloyd went away from the run because of how effective Devin Singletary, who I don't think is coming up off that job right now. I had an opportunity to talk to Devin Singletary. He's playing phenomenal right now. Tank Dell had 120 yards and 1 TD at halftime. But the amount of plays Houston was able to get chunked throughout that game was great. Again, going back to that first half, the Texans offense accounted for 15 plays of 10 or more yards. This is an offense when everything is clicking and they're not being handcuffed, and you're seeing the rushing attack complement the passing attack, and everything is kind of balanced out. And you got guys whether it's Nico, whether it's Tank, whether it's Schultz, whether it's Mechie, whether it's whoever it is, you got guys on this offense because of CJ. They just need to play their role, and you'll see this offense progressing. You'll see these big plays downfield, which is something Houston has been able to garner throughout the last couple of weeks. And when this offense is putting up points, 30 against Pittsburgh, 30 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a big game next week at home for the Houston Texans, 30 against the Bucks, 30 last week against the Bengals. When you see this team putting up those points, look at the amount of chunk plays Houston is picking up offensively. And I think we can micromanage, we can dissect CJ Stroud's performance, the 3 interceptions. We can do all of that. But we cannot undervalue with CJ Stroud as the quarterback, with the offensive line now having some continuity. And I think this is probably the better game, the best game I've seen from Titus Howard this year at left guard. And no offense, George Fant is just doing an amazing job at right tackle. I don't think there's a better offensive lineman on this team right now at getting to the next level and getting some blockers. And moving the block, an opposing defender out the way, excuse me. By the way, Brevin Jordan got in on the action with some of that block. The TD that Devin Singletary picked up, Brevin Jordan was amazing blocking their linebacker. I think it was Kaiser White, and open up a lane. So you got guys getting a hand on the hat. You got bodies getting moved out the way. You got CJ being able to put the ball in the air. You got the run game being effective. You're seeing an offense, 333 total yards at halftime, kind of do whatever they want to on teams offensively. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. You have a competent offense when everything is working well. I'm not going to belittle the performance from rookie CJ Stroud. After the MVP week, he just had a rookie type of game. And even in his rookie type of game, Robert Woods on the interception that should have been a caught pass, right? The other two you put on CJ Stroud, but he still put up 336 yards. He still had 2 touchdowns, right? He still was able to go out there and help this team to a victory. I think the first half of this game is what Houston is going to be able to consistently put out on the field. The run game is popping with the zone blocking, the zone scheme, where you're seeing Devin Singletary cut up the field, one cut and go. You're seeing that, which was the difference between Singletary and Pierce. But this offense right now, guys, is moving, and you like what you see. And I got to shout out the offensive line, and I really got to shout out Fant because he's playing some good football right now. Listen, guys, Monday Night Football is here. You got the NBA season popping, women's college basketball, men's college basketball, right? Everything is going on right now. You had a long day at work. You got home. There's no food in the refrigerator. You're hungry. You're tired. You don't feel like driving. You just want to watch some sports. And you just want to chill. And you want some wings, but you don't feel like leaving. DoorDash is your friend during those moments. We've all had those moments where you're just looking around like, man, I got to eat something, but I don't feel like leaving. DoorDash. And right now, DoorDash is offering 50% off up to $10 value on your first order, right? If you have local restaurants that you like, I personally love Kid Creole Cooking here in Humble, Texas. The best fish and grits that I've had on this side of town where I'm from right now, where I'm living right now. Or if you just, you kind of want to go pick up some tacos, right? Or you want some wings, right? You can go and find all of that on DoorDash. Again, 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Just download the DoorDash app, enter promo code LOCK23 right now. If you don't feel like leaving the couch, but you want to enjoy football and you want to eat and you don't feel like cooking because there ain't nothing in the fridge and the leftovers they need to go out in the trash and you're hungry right now, DoorDash. Just download the DoorDash app. Get the 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCK23. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Had an opportunity to go to the game. And it was fun, man. The arena, the stadium, the crowd, right? I mean, they were amazing. The fans were there. Tailgating was popping. They filled the NRG Stadium. The energy, the electricity was all there. And I think that really helped because Arizona had a couple of delay of games. They had one, and then they had to call a timeout right when the delay of game flag should have been thrown. As a matter of fact, I think the flag was thrown, but they picked it up because of the timeout, which was like a split second before they threw it. I think that helped out the defense, and I think their energy carried over, especially in their first half where everything was going right. Look at these final thoughts, man. Cody, I know we got Derek Stingley as a guy that we want to highlight. Blake Cashman is a guy we want to highlight. But I'm highlighting the defense all together. If you take away that the 51 yards that Kyler Murray had on the ground, you're looking at a team that held the Arizona Cardinals to under 100 yards. Now, of course, we can do ifs all day. If was a fifth, we all be drunk. But I think playing Kyler Murray is a different element, right? I mean, because he's a quarterback, but he also can take off and scramble at any moment. They did a good job of just containing the running backs and making their day a little bit difficult for them throughout the day. Christian Harris, man, can't speak enough about this young man. 3 weeks in a row where you're seeing his real impact. You're seeing growth from him as a player on the field. 5 tackles again, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass deflections. He was great. DeAndre Houston Carson was great for Houston. And again, Tavierre Thomas should just teach a class on how to tackle. Offensively, you know what? I'm just going to shout out the O-line and Devin Singletary. Y'all can have Tank Dell. I know he's going to get a shout out. He's going to probably be the player of the game for Houston. I get that, right? He had an amazing game. Y'all can have that. But we don't see this first half offense if Devin Singletary don't have 84 rushing yards. And if Houston offensive line isn't doing a good job of moving bodies out the way, protecting C.J. Stroud, handling those D-tackle stunts, picking up those blitz throughout the game. You don't see 333 yards total if the O-line wasn't as impactful as they were Sunday. And I mean, from the offensive line to the additional blockers, Brevin Jordan. Man, listen, I apologize. He got in on the action. He's getting dirty. And Devin Singletary just doing what this offense needed. Last year, you saw no real identity offensively, and it was just kind of getting where you fit in. Now the scheme that Houston has in place fits more to the talents of Devin Singletary, And you saw that, being able to make guys miss and get up the field on one cut and getting out of there, right? Not looking for the contact, but making sure that he's able to pick up extra yards with the opportunities he's given. So I was thoroughly impressed by those two elements of the game: O-line blocking and Devin Singletary running the ball. They were significant in 333 yards at half, nearly 500 total. That's the type of game you want to see.
I want to give a shout out to the depth that this Houston Texans team have, because a lot of the guys that you just named, Devin Singletary, DeAndre Houston Carson, Blake Cashman, you look like a lot of these guys, they were not looked at as starters at the start of the season. And then a lot of them we was looking at, and it's like, man, if you get to the point where you got to rely on these guys, then that means something is very, very wrong. And not only does it mean something is very, very wrong, we was questioning whether or not they were able to fill in the voids. However, they have been doing a phenomenal job. And John, I know this is something I believe you and I talked about over the last 2 weeks was, you hate to see all these injuries, especially to key players like Jimmy Ward, key player like Jerry Patterson a couple of weeks ago. However, I think it showcased that this team is a lot deeper and a lot more talented that we came into the season thinking about. However, my final thoughts, in the words of D'Amico Ryans, it's good that we got this win, but it's now time for us to move on to next week. And John, correct me if I'm wrong. Texans, Jacksonville, week 12.
For the division.
In NRG Stadium for the lead of the division. I don't think the Texans have had a more important game since 2019. As of right now, the Houston Texans, as they sit at 6-4, they are number 6 for the wild card spot. And if the playoffs started today, I believe they will be playing against Jacksonville, but of course, in Jacksonville. So this whole entire week,
a lot of implications.
This whole entire, and that's one thing that I love when we talked to D'Amico, what we heard for what CJ Stroud had to say during his post-game media availability. A lot of other players talked in the locker room. I was on the side talking to Derek Stingley Jr. Everybody talked about it's good that we're on this 3-game win streak. 6-4, I believe. Coach D'Amico Ryans was asked on his availability, how impressed has he been? The fact that he has turned around this team so fast, this soon, this quick. They don't want to celebrate. They are focused, and they know what's at stake starting next week. And look, fans continue to show out inside of NRG Stadium. Please make sure you root your Houston Texans team on, because next week it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah. By the way, I do got to show love to Tank. Tank Dell set a new franchise record for most receiving yards by a Texans player through their first 9 games, passing up Texans great Andre Johnson. Tank Dell has been a godsend for this offense. He's been able to make plays down the field, intermediately, short, whatever you need your wide receiver to do. That's been Tank Dell for Houston, especially in the last 3 games. And so that connection between CJ and Tank, y'all may think it was corny, but I'm mad they don't have the 7-1-3 connection, because that would have been phenomenal. And we would have said it a lot because of how many times they've been able to connect. 60 leads for Tank Dell on the year. Nico Collins had another good game for Houston. They're both setting, to this point, career highs. And you just love to see how this offense can continue to dominate when everything is working correctly. Thank you guys for listening to this Monday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. If you got time to listen to another podcast, I will be going live on Bleacher Report 10:30 Monday. Find me on Bleacher Report under John Hickman.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.